Hey you, down here, it's me, Mr. V. I'm hiding in this brake duct because it's the last place the Tifosi would think to look for me. I've got something controversial to say about Ferrari. I'm scared what those crazy Italians are going to do if they get their hands on me. Alright, here goes. Ferrari are bad at race strategy. Oh, nothing happened. I thought there would be more backlash for that. Everyone agrees? Oh, I'll get out of here then. Oh, nice. Okay, so it's been a meme for some time now that Ferrari don't always make the best decisions for their drivers during a race. And when I say for some time, I mean the last 5 to 10 years. But why is that? How is it possible that a team with the most Formula 1 experience and by far the most money can come across so disorganised so often? How can a team with 242 wins, a team that once stood on the podium 53 times in a row in the early 2000s, not know the best time to pit its drivers? Subscribe to this video, hit the like, blah blah blah, you know how it works. Let's talk about it.
Poor communication.
The most obvious issue that we hear is the confusing, often incorrect communication between Leclerc, Sainz and their engineers. To quote from Monaco this year, and box now, box now, box, 4 hards. Stay out, stay out, stay out. Why? What are you doing? Now, some caveats. These are 2 drivers who don't speak English as a first language, speaking to 2 engineers who don't speak English as a first language, in English, all while adrenaline is high and the pressure is on in the middle of a race. And it's not uncommon to hear other drivers and other teams getting heated with their teams as well, occasionally. The Ferrari calls do, however, seem to be like this way more often. It seems to be they're just not up to scratch to provide clear, quick information to their drivers to help them perform at their best. At the end of the day, the driver's main job is not to think too hard, it's to turn the wheel and press the pedals. Being confused because your engineer is yelling random crap in your ears does not help with that. It should be completely unacceptable for Sainz's engineer to tell him he has a different penalty than the one he actually has. It should be completely unacceptable to yell "stay out" to a driver as they are entering the pit lane. And we really shouldn't be hearing so much arguing between Sainz and Vettel before him with their engineers about strategy. But more on that later.
No central authority.
Along with confusing and unhelpful radio messages to drivers, we also see the Ferrari strategy machine taking way too long to make decisions. I get the feeling this is down to a lack of central authority or one key strategy officer with the ability to override everyone and tell them to shut up. Watching Ferrari try to figure something out often feels like there's a whole big group of people off in a small office somewhere just casually discussing over a coffee. Verstappen is bidding, shall we box? What does the driver think? Charles, shall we box? What? He does not know. Okay, well I guess we stay out then. Whenever something new happens on track or a driver queries a decision, the team needs to be making decisions in seconds. Because in Formula 1, a matter of seconds is often the only difference between winning a race or not. Even when a driver is screaming at them on the radio, unhappy with some decision, sometimes the engineer needs to take the authority to just tell them, "Listen here, you little... shut up and drive the car." Instead though, we end up hearing the all too familiar, "we are checking." Something, either operationally within the team, within the management structure, or culturally in the communication between the drivers and the engineers and the team, is just off of Ferrari. It just feels like there's a lack of trust, a lack of faith between all the different members of the team to actually do their job properly. I'm not saying the drivers don't like or trust their engineers. They do, but clearly there is some idea, some subconscious thought in the back of the driver's head that everything that comes to them from the team is complete nonsense. Realistically, this is not an issue with the drivers, or it shouldn't be an issue with the drivers. Someone needs to take the 2 race engineers, Ricardo Adami and Javier Marcos Padros, and put them on a management course or something. These guys are highly experienced race engineers. They know what they're talking about, oftentimes more than the drivers. They need to A, know when it's time to just tell the driver to shut up and get on with it, and B, learn when to protect their driver from the rest of the team who's in the back of the garage making the worst goddamn decision you've ever heard. Those guys in the chair need to be given more authority to use in both directions.
You can't say that. It's a Ferrari.
Sadly, the thing that seems to be holding Ferrari back from fixing this issue, and really the thing that stops it from fixing any of its issues, is pride. There seems to be a culture within the team of Ferrari is amazing, Ferrari never makes any mistakes. If something bad happens, it's not Ferrari's fault. This can come about for 3 reasons. Firstly, it's an old, successful team. When you've had that much success in the past, it's easy to get in a mindset that that way that worked for you before will always work for you forevermore. Secondly, this kind of culture typically comes from the top. The guy who is week in, week out going into the media interviews and saying, "We didn't make any strategy mistakes," is also the guy who runs the team, Matteo Binotto. Cultural changes within an organization typically come from the top down, and he needs to start taking accountability, building a culture within the team of, yeah, we did do this wrong, but we won't do it wrong again, and giving the right people in the right places the authority and the leeway to criticize the team on the things they do badly. However, despite being team principal, it never really feels like Matteo Binotto has the power to do anything because, thirdly, Ferrari is not just an F1 team. It is closely, and I mean closely, linked with its road car division. Ferrari is not the only team that's part of a large manufacturer. Mercedes, Alpine, McLaren all come to mind. Unlike Ferrari though, Mercedes is only 1/3 owned by Mercedes, and actually a whole other third is owned by Toto Wolff, which means really he can just do whatever he wants. McLaren is really just a Formula 1 team with a road car thing bolted on the side, not the other way round, and that means when you insult them, you're not insulting this huge, historic brand and also family. And Alpine is, well, actually no. Alpine is in a similar situation to Ferrari and they're a complete mess as well, so actually, you kind of get the point. They don't have the luxury of being able to criticize themselves to improve themselves because they have a huge, massive company bearing down their neck, making sure they uphold a reputation. Binotto is in a difficult situation where Ferrari F1 is Ferrari, and Ferrari is Ferrari F1. He can't criticize a team because in doing so, he'd be criticizing the entire brand, and doing so is of course punishable by death. Lots of the time when he does interviews, he quite literally looks like he has a gun pointed at him from behind the camera. That's not a comfortable situation to be running a functioning organization from. It also doesn't help that Matteo Binotto is Ferrari through and through. He left university, the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia, where the engineering department is literally named after Enzo Ferrari, and went straight to work at Ferrari, spending his entire career there ever since. He may well be suffering from a lack of perspective on what even needs changing within the team. If you've worked there your entire life, you only know the Ferrari way of doing things, and therefore that looks like the right way. Now, being proud is not a bad thing, but being unwilling to change because of it, that's not going to get you anywhere. In recent decades, Ferrari has looked most impressive when they take an established driver from another team and stick them in the car, working with them to mold and develop the team in a way that best suits the driver. Think back to the Schumacher era. That guy helped fully rebuild the team in the mid-90s. They were trash in the early 90s. I fear that in Leclerc's case particularly, he doesn't have the experience with another team, another organization, to be able to tell Ferrari off when the time calls for it. He's fast, really fast. He reminds me of Verstappen from a couple years ago. The difference is though, Verstappen was in a very well-oiled, very confident Red Bull. Max was very hot-headed and at times prone to pushing the car beyond its limit, thinking he had to drive faster than he did to make his strategy work. Red Bull were exceptionally patient with him, guiding him in the correct way of doing things, while at the same time changing their processes, changing their car to best suit him for, well, now. And as a result, we now have one of the scariest driver-team pairings for a long, long time. Leclerc needs that. He still seems a little green, both emotionally and strategy-wise at times. He needs a confident, stable organization that is also willing to mold itself around him slowly. You can see the difference in Sainz. This is Sainz's 4th team in F1 and his 2nd year with Ferrari. He's seen a lot of bad decisions in his time and he's started not to take it anymore. Ferrari need to listen and start to learn from Sainz in the way they should have learned from Vettel before him and Alonso before him. They need to put their pride aside and go, actually, if this guy's telling us what we're doing is stupid, maybe what we're doing is in fact stupid. But no, instead we just get, the team did not make any wrong decisions, I don't think. In conclusion, these issues have nothing to do with Ferrari not having the right resources or not having the skill, the engineering talent on the pit wall. If this is a case of just needing a better computer model to crunch the numbers and give a better strategy before the race, they could just throw money at that and start dominating. That's not the issue though. The issue is that all the knowledge and skill is there, they just don't have someone who has the guts or the authority to make quick decisions as they need to be made. They need to stop being so set in their ways and instead start to build a culture where people can actually go, yeah, you know what? I did that wrong. You did that wrong. We did that wrong. We know that now though, not a bad thing, and that means we can start to not do it again in the future. They need to put people in place within the strategy team who have the guts to make quick decisions, and then they also need to not take them out back behind the paddock and shoot them in the back of the head if they criticise the team. Ferrari have 2 drivers capable of winning races, capable probably of winning championships. They could have been a dominant team this year. Only once Ferrari admits that they made mistakes and that's the reason they aren't dominant can they start to get back on top. And also, for God's sake, lads, you've got to think about replacing Binotto. The man has suffered enough. If we all chip in just €1, we can put Mattia Binotto in witness protection so Ferrari can't hurt him anymore. Hit the subscribe button down below and I'll keep you updated on how we go about doing that. Like this video if you liked it, you know how it works. My ego is fueled entirely on likes, so it'd be real good if you could press that like button. I've been Mr. V. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys later.